First-person shooters are a thriving genre, and 2024 has got a ton of good ones. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the top 10 new FPS games of 2024. Starting off with number 10, it's John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. Now, if you know anything about John Carpenter, you pretty much know what you're getting into here. This is a pretty intense-looking horde shooter with co-op and a buddy road movie vibe that John Carpenter himself, the horror guy from the 80s, is collaborating with Saber Interactive to make. It is an interesting looking game. It doesn't look exactly like anything I've seen. Obviously, it's a trailer. We don't know exactly what the gameplay looks like, but if it looks like what they're trying to make it look like, it's gonna be a ride. They get some points for using Bon Jovi in the trailer as well. That's just not a normal thing to do in a zombie horror first-person shooter trailer. So they're doing things to try to set themselves apart. That's great because, like I said, first-person shooters are a thriving genre. There's a lot of first-person shooters. So anything you can do that says, this is definitely my game, this is something that you can only get from me, even if it's little signals in tone, it's a good idea. And partnering with John Carpenter is probably the best possible move you can make if you're making zombie stuff. So when Toxic Commando comes out on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC sometime this year, you can bet I will be playing it. At number 9 is Phantom Fury, a new prequel to Bombshell and the follow-up to Ion Fury, which was the first build engine game to come out in a very long time. Now, Ion Fury was decidedly built on top of old technology, but Phantom Fury is not. Phantom Fury is built on Unreal 4, but it's still continuing the same look that we saw in Ion Fury, that sort of build engine aesthetic, and it really looks like a 3D Realms game. Obviously, a much more premium, modern version of that, something that's not possible in the 1990s with the build engine. But that same sort of style of design, the pixel art, it's all there. If you'd have showed me this and said, who made this, I'd say 3D Realms. It's actually not 3D Realms, it's Slipgate Ironworks, which is a company that got its start making mods for Duke Nukem. Highly recommend looking into them. They're a very interesting story. But they have honed this to a science. I absolutely love what Phantom Fury looks like. It looks like the culmination of everything I remember from the 1990s, with a commitment to retaining the aesthetic rather than abandoning it for something hyper real. 3D Realms probably should have been doing this the whole time. Like, this should have been Duke Nukem Forever. If they were smart, they would acquire Slipgate Ironworks. They're exactly what 3D Realms needs. This game looks great. Look at it. How can you not want to play this? I'm sure we'll see it on everything, but at the moment, you'll be able to get it on PC April 23rd. At number 8 is Vreski's Untitled FPS. Now, what this is a game being developed by two people. Yes, this is a game being developed by two people. It's like if Max Payne was a first-person shooter and extremely realistic looking as opposed to, Max Payne. Nothing against Max Payne, it's just a really old game. Toss in a little bit of Stalker in terms of enemy physics and how they react to being shot, and you have something that just looks absolutely insane. Particularly, just this absolutely amazing lighting. I know that this is not something that is totally ignored by every FPS or anything, but there's just something about how the lighting interacts with the guns on screen that I just think is heightened above anything I've seen in recent memory, at least. This is an absolutely beautiful looking FPS that obviously doesn't have a name, but is an absolutely amazing physics simulation looking bullet time crazy thing. I mean, this is exactly what I want to play. I can't wait to play wherever this goes. It looks amazing. At number 7 is Agent 64 Spies Never Die, which is a game that is very obviously attempting to look like GoldenEye 64. It does a pretty good job, I might add, capturing that aesthetic. I think it's funny, the game's Steam page advertises it as using cutting-edge 64-bit powered enemy AI. But in all seriousness, it really does look like that same kind of husky, deliberate movement, but perhaps a little bit better controlled due to, everything about FPS shooters that has happened since GoldenEye 64. Like, this has the potential to be something really cool. We have seen projects kind of do this, but I've never felt like anybody's really truly, and it's shocking to say this actually, but really never truly followed up on GoldenEye 64 outside of Time Splitters and Perfect Dark, which are, kind of just the developers trying to do their best here, It's shocking nobody's really tried to pick up that torch and carry it, but it looks like Replicant D6 has managed to figure out how to do so. I'm really excited for this. It's coming sometime this year. Don't have a release date, but I will be playing it, period. And number 6 is PIONER. PIONER? I don't know exactly how to say it, but it's a post-apocalyptic Soviet island, and you're dropped onto it with various narrative, survival, crafting, etc. type stuff going on. You got PvE, you got PvP. In some ways, it kind of looks like Fallout. In some ways, it kind of looks like Borderlands. But you also see a lot of Escape from Tarkov, Stalker type stuff here. I don't know. It's a pretty interesting game that looks like it draws from a lot of different inspirations. And as with a lot of that type of idea, it really does depend on the execution, of course. It looks kind of like they're going to be taking the sort of premium game with microtransactions model, which is bound to piss people off. But we'll actually see the extent that the microtransactions affect the game. It may be that they aren't really a factor. It's a very pretty looking game, though. If it follows through on everything that it's trying to do and does it well, I think we're looking at something pretty sweet. And number 5 is Mouse, a game that just does some absurd stuff. First off, it's intended to look like Mickey Mouse. Now, Mouse, in some ways, kind of reminds me of BioShock. First off, it's a noir-looking game. Second off, you have special powers that you can activate by ingesting things. Now, it's important to note that it actually isn't using the Steamboat Willie IP. At first glance, you might think, oh, well, Disney lost the copyright for Mickey Mouse. Of course they're doing this. It's actually not using that. It's an original IP. It just uses that style, which is cool. That's actually an aspect I kind of like about it. I don't have criticism for people trying to make horror stuff with Mickey Mouse now that that IP is in the public domain, but I do kind of respect the idea of just trying to do something your own way entirely. And on top of that, it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like an enjoyable game. I'm interested to see where it goes. We don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I'm excited. At number 4 is Luna Abyss, a story-driven action-adventure, which there is a demo available. I would recommend giving it a shot. It's a kind of a different game. While on the surface, it might conjure some thoughts of some other games, but it's actually got a very distinct visual style, usually keeping one color on the screen at a time, it seems like. Very minimal with its use of anything outside of a single color. So when another color does show up, it's very striking. It's a cool way of doing things, in my opinion. Very, very striking visual style. The combat, both if you play the game and if you read the description of the game, is bullet hell stuff, and there's a lot of platforming. It's, really cool. You got something that looks nothing like Mirror's Edge that is gonna make you feel some of those vibes sometimes, which is really, I like that kind of thing. I see a lot of people comparing it to BioShock, Nier Automata, and even Returnal. But the platforming definitely sometimes gives me the Mirror's Edge feel. I don't know, this is a unique game. Play the demo. You gotta play the demo. And number 3 is Clockwork Revolution, which, again, BioShock, seemingly really heavy in the inspiration, really seriously in the minds of the first-person shooter developers in this moment of the zeitgeist. Although usually when we're talking about BioShock, we're talking about inspiration that came from the original BioShock. This looks a lot more like BioShock Infinite, including the way that it handles time and changing the world. It seems to very much be in line with a lot of the stuff that we saw on display in BioShock Infinite. Granted, there are some marked differences in terms of how powers work, in terms of guns, in terms of maybe even action. I'm not 100% on that. I've seen a couple of things that make me think this might be a little bit faster paced, but I don't know. I'm very interested in this because I love the aesthetic. I love BioShock Infinite, and I love the ideas that they have shown in the trailers. The narrative is intriguing to me. And number 2 is ExeKiller, a narrative shooter, which is oriented specifically towards storytelling. You're a bounty hunter in a semi-open world environment, And ultimately, what happens puts you on the run in your really cool retro-futuristic hover car. ExeKiller looks badass. The trailer they made for it has like this perfect atmospheric pace. And if that translates into the real game, it's something that I want to play desperately. And at number 1, how could you not? It's S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Of course it's S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl. It's been a very long time since we've had a S.T.A.L.K.E.R game. And we've had some games that have recently shown us how great a next-generation S.T.A.L.K.E.R might be. And now we're getting that exact thing. A beautiful, incredibly cool-looking upgrade on the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R that just looks like a massive, ridiculous set of circumstances that you are going to be unleashed in. Of course, the setup is similar to the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R. You're going into the heart of Chernobyl, of course. Like I said, a lot of games recently have shown us, hey, wouldn't it be great if there was a next-gen S.T.A.L.K.E.R? But also, we're getting a next-gen S.T.A.L.K.E.R. We don't know exactly when, but it really looks like a fantastic addition to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R canon. I'm looking forward to it. We've got a few bonus games for you. Terminator Survivors the First, an open-world survival game. It's going to be a game that acts as a future time sequel to the first 2 films. Obviously a post-apocalyptic Terminator-type game. Moving on is Metro Awakening, a story-driven first-person adventure built exclusively for VR. Metro, of course, is a very cool franchise. I love the way Metro games play out. They just are really kind of unlike anything else, and VR is, I think, a very good idea for that type of a thing. I think it's a thing that will work quite well in VR. Next is Delta Force Hawk Ops, a new free-to-play multiplayer tactical shooter. Believe it or not, it's based on the movie Black Hawk Down, at least the single-player campaign. But I have a feeling the bigger thing is going to be the PvP action. Next is Soul Slinger, Envoy of Death. Kind of a Western fantasy RPG. You don't really see a lot of Western fantasy stuff, period, but mystical stuff and guns does mix pretty well. I will say the trailer for this makes me feel like it's gonna need some tightening in its gunplay. I guess it's early access. I haven't played this one yet. I'm not gonna lie. I will probably give it a shot though, because I do really like what I'm seeing. It looks like some nice old school shooter action. Maybe not quite a boomer shooter, but close. If Skyrim was a boomer shooter, maybe, but with the Wild West. Next is Exomecha, which of course you're going to immediately recognize as Crisis adjacent. But it needs to be said that it very much also feels Halo adjacent, and that is really what it's going after. It's a multiplayer competitive shooter that to me looks like if you combine those 2 games, and yeah, I'm there for that. That requires very little to get me in the door. Next is Killing Floor 3. It's been a while since the last Killing Floor, 2016 specifically, and this looks like the big AAA update for 2024. We talked about this a bit a few months ago. We still haven't been able to play it, of course, and to my knowledge, neither has anyone else. But it's a very cool looking, much more intense, visually speaking, version of Killing Floor. I'm there for that. Next is Sand, an MMO FPS, where you go around the desert in sort of walking ships. They look kind of like steamships, but they got legs and there's no ocean. It's just a desert. It's cool looking. We don't know a whole hell of a lot about the gameplay yet, but the world that would have to take place in is automatically cool in my opinion. And finally, we got Ferocious, a game that reminds me very much of a sort of AAA current Turok looking game. You want to shoot some dinosaurs? Well, that's Ferocious, and I'm all there for it. We don't get enough dinosaur-oriented games, and we should be seeing more of those. Anyways, that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.